All right, let's get things started. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's seminar. This seminar is uh, what is the process to dedicated freight, and then, of course, how to find shippers through email marketing. My name is Henry. Thank you all for attending. I've been in logistics all of my life, started in logistics in the military, kind of carried throughout my career. Um, I'm part of a very passionate team that we want to help grow trucking companies, and help them find direct shippers. So, and we're on a mission to empower truckers and shippers through technology. So, Truckpedia's mission has always been connecting carriers, shippers through technology. Um, our vision is, shaping the future of trucking, right? We want to make sure that we are helping our carriers, you know, pave this new way in trucking, right? And leverage technology and all the other tools that are out there to go after direct clients and grow our businesses. So before we get started, why should we find and go after direct shippers? Okay. What's the real root cause? Well, the real root cause, or the real root of finding direct shippers, is money, right? So if we take a look at, let's say we have 10 trucks, and this is just to share a little math with you. You have 10 trucks, about 3,500 per week per truck. Now everybody's different. They could be a little bit less. They could be a lot more. They could be 7,000. 52 weeks in a year, right? If we do the math on this, that's about $1.8 million in freight. If you take a look at that, and let's say you're getting 10% more per load by going to direct shippers, which is basically at a minimum, right? That's almost $200,000 more in profit, right? So what would that mean if you could get 10% more for your business? That's a big deal, especially, in the current climate, right? 10% can, make or break our bank accounts, right? So what we're going to be going through today is what's the difference between an RFP, and those of you who don't know who RFP is, request for price, sometimes called request for proposal. What's the difference between that and load boards? How to find shippers, right? How to vet shippers, how to negotiate for payment terms. What are shippers looking for? How to avoid bad shippers. There's good and bad everything. How to set up a system to automate the process to find shippers. And then, of course, how to fill out rates. How do I price my loads? So RFP versus load boards. Basically, an RFP is the process to bid and win dedicated freight loads from shippers. Most of the time, the request for proposal, request for price, a lot of times when we're talking about this RFP, is these are larger companies or mid-sized companies. They have their stuff together, right? They're looking for somebody either on the broker side or the carrier side that's going to take care of them, right? And they want to vet them. So this is the process. Now, you're probably seeing it, from brokers on load boards, you're probably seeing those weekly hot loads. A lot of those are derived, or most of those are derived from the RFP process. So let me show you an example of one we conducted with a very large shipper that we help land with our clients. And of course, we've changed the names on the PDF and the CSV, but let me share this couple of screens with you. So a lot of times when you get an RFP, there is a large set of instructions, okay? So one of the things when you do get an RFP or you get invited to one, take the time, go into a quiet spot, read through this exactly, okay? Because what you want to do is make sure we're pricing ourselves properly for these proposals. And for this particular client, we of course grabbed all the information that they required us to grab. And what we wanted to make sure is the people that we invited to this RFP process understand exactly how to do it. So this is just all of the information to kind of help you, fill out these, right? And this is just an example. Let me share with you, this also usually comes with an attached spreadsheet. So this is typically what you would see, the lane, what zip code, where it's going to, what zip code, what type of service, what type of requirement for equipment, the estimated miles, and it goes really into detail of, estimated how many loads per week. Then of course they want to talk about, okay, what's your capacity, what's your rate per mile, transit hours, SCAC, which we'll go through in a little bit more detail, and of course your DOT number. This is fairly typical when you're going through this entire process. All right. So, how to find these shippers with these dedicated lanes, right? How do we do it, right? So most of it, anybody who's on here who is a carrier, most of us are taught, okay, find a good broker, go on load boards, find our loads. Hopefully, eventually we can, of course, find, a direct shipper or get invited to a direct dedicated RFP or dedicated lane. This is where we were taught. Now, when you look at it from a broker's perspective, right? They are the ones that are typically doing all the marketing going after these particular clients, right? Not a bad thing. That's what they do. They're here to resell loads. So what we want to look at is, okay, what are the freight brokers doing that myself as a carrier can do better, right? How do I get invited to these? So a lot of times it's connecting to direct shippers, how to do that, how to find these people, right? So there's a lot of lists that are out there. This is called Lead Finder um, through Truckpedia. And what this allows you to do is search for job titles, locations, industries, commodities, companies. This has over 1 million plus direct client leads in the system. Now, you can go out and you can buy these leads. There's a bunch of sources out there to do so. This is just one of the sources we wanted to show you. So out of all the channels that we were looking at on that first page, outbound, inbound, being visible online, knocking on doors, cold calling, emailing. Out of all those channels, email marketing is the easiest one. And thank you for those of you who are just joining. So, a lot of people think, okay, email marketing's dead, right? I tried it, it didn't work. What you have to understand when going after a direct client, it takes about 5 to 11 touches, okay? So just looking at that from that perspective, a lot of times we give up too soon. Most truckers and brokers are calling email marketer, calling marketing dead, because of one reason, right? Their target audience has never seen these emails. They don't know how to get in front of, what do I use? How do I do this, right? They tried sending email systems, through systems or uh, um, through their own, emails, and these aren't intended for cold emailing. Okay, as a result, a lot of the stuff ends up in spam, junk files, and then they give up and go on to something else. So this is very typical, right? And so, without the proper tools and the setup, your emails will absolutely end up in spam, junk files. You can even be blocked or put on a blacklist, right? This is where most companies fail. when they're going after direct shippers. So there are 3 common mistakes made when it comes to marketing. Okay, so looking at this, there's these top 3. First is, mistake number 1, spam filters. When we're setting up the back end for our clients, we're looking at SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. These are triggers on a domain. And if set up properly, you can bypass those spam and junk files. Because when you're sending an email, what you're doing is it's kind of like a digital handshake. We're sending an email, the opposite person. Hey, Paul, we'll leave questions all the way at the end. So if you wouldn't mind typing those in the chat, I'd appreciate it. So, these are triggers, right, that help us bypass. And when we're trying to make that digital handshake, what we don't want to be looked at is spam or junk, right? That's the last thing that we want to do. So instead of sending hundreds of emails, from one email or even one domain, a lot of times we're going to spread this across multiple domains, multiple emails. And what this does is help us, reach that target, reach that person's inbox. So here's a good formula. So if you're doing this yourself, if you want to do 100 emails per day, you want to have at least one domain with 2 email accounts. So if you want to do 1,000, 520, 4 email accounts per domain. And then if you want to reach about 10,000, you need 40. So this is a good math to follow. This will help not to collapse your domain or any of that stuff. So mistake number 2 is targeting people, having bad leads, right? Sending the wrong message. So one of the things you have to look at whenever you start your marketing engine, whether it's through us or through your own channels, you want to make sure you're looking at the shipper, right? Who's your target audience? What kind of commodity do they own? Knowing even who they are, if you can find out their age or gender, where they hang out, locations, interests. These are all things that can help you, because there's not, just because we're talking about email here, there are other ways to talk to people. So having that information is extremely, extremely important. So professional goals, what are their goals? Like when you do get in front of a direct client, finding out a little bit about them. What are they trying to do, right? Are they trying to grow their business? Are they looking for um, a carrier that can grow with them? All these things are very important. Also, the challenges, what problems are they trying to solve? Are they, if they're going direct or changing brokers, what are those issues, right? Maybe with their previous broker, they just didn't have a connection, right? They never knew, what carrier is going to show up. And a lot of times that's problematic, for staying and nurturing and keeping these direct shippers. How do they currently find truckers, right? Do they want to work, with truckers directly, or they want to work with brokers? This information is important, right? What are the points they have? What are the pain points, right, that they have with their current solution or their current broker or their current carrier, right? Talking about these things with them is very important. So, how can you help, right? What can we do as a carrier, as a broker, to help them service their needs, right? So a lot of this stuff you want to kind of think about prior to reaching out, or think about, put it on a piece of paper, write it all down. I mean, these are very important topics, that will help you, vet, help you when you get in front of these people. Also, it's good to know where you're at, right? Do you meet the requirements to work with them, right? That's very important, right? A lot of these bigger companies that are doing RFPs and sending these out, They're looking for very specific requirements. And do you have what they need to make their life easy, right? Finding out these pain points, all these things are very important. So um, when you look at all this information and when you're compiling this to even get leads, keep all of this in mind when you're going after these leads and compiling this information, whether it be through us. We do it through our managed services, but if you're doing this yourself, make sure you're targeting the right audience. So mistake number 3 is bad copywriting, bad emails. A lot of this, when writing an email and going after direct shippers, is you're trying to elicit a response. And you have to understand, when you start marketing and going after and getting these shippers with these larger RFPs, when you start going after these people and you're writing these messages, what you're trying to do is get between whatever relationship they have, whether it's a broker or carrier, and that direct shipper. You're trying to slide in between there. And you need a message that is going to elicit a response. It's very important, because a lot of times we're writing these canned things, right? We don't know exactly, what to write. So if you guys want to steal this is a great framework. If you guys want to copy the screen or do a screenshot, this is called an AIDA framework. This is a framework on how to write an email. Now, of course, there's Chat GPT and all these other things, AI, that can help you with this, but you need to make sure that you give the proper command so it writes a good email that's gonna elicit a response, right? So AIDA stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. So attention, how to write a compelling subject line. A lot of these people that you're going to be talking to, they don't have great attention spans. They're super busy. So making sure that headliner, very responsive. Maintain interest throughout the content that you're writing. Okay. A lot of times, shorter is better. Don't write a novel here. And also write it from a perspective of what's in it for them. Not trying to let them know everything about every little detail about us. That can all be found later once the discovery happens. Using desire, right? Using persuasive techniques to drive desire, to drive results, right? To drive that desire to talk to you. And then, of course, effective call to actions, ensuring there is an action at the end of whatever you're writing. There's something that they need to respond to. So this is another one here that is worth doing a screenshot of, saving, looking at this. So these are all examples of email templates. Intro, what's the offer? Maybe having a case study and then a call to action. And of course, intro here, case study, a value CTA. We'll get into some of these below here. Intro, pain point, solution, right? CTA. Intro, value, call to action, and then maybe a case study at the end. There's one-liner emails with an offer and a call to action. So all of these are kind of like templates that you can write emails through. Now, there are 4 kinds of CTAs that we can use in trucking. So one is like a hard CTA. Hey, let's hop on a 15-minute call, right? Maybe a little bit too pushy, but depending on the message you're writing, it could be legit, perfectly fine. Soft one. Would you mind if I send you over some more information, right? And then value. Can I send you a video? Can I send you something, right? And then a solution. Click here for an instant quote, right? These are all examples. Some of these are examples that we write for our clients. So here's an example, and this is kind of a CTA, for us going after clients like you and kind of bringing them in, and says, if we were to help you find 10 prospective shippers through email marketing, would you mind, if I send you over a 5-step guide of how it works, right? This is an example of a good one-liner with an offer and then a call to action, right? So this is another one. Have you ever thought about what will happen to your business if you kept working with brokers and not adding carriers to the mix over the next 5 to 10 years? You know, this is a great one, okay? Because brokers, there's nothing wrong with a good broker. There's work for all of us here as carriers, and brokers. But having a mix, right? Sometimes having a dedicated lane and knowing exactly who's coming is very important. But also sometimes having a broker is important too, because not every carrier is going to be able to get every single lane that you have, right? Every carrier is unique in the space. Every carrier has their own lanes and what makes them great. And also too, having a broker that's a good broker that can help you find the rest is important. But having a mix is also very important, especially from a shipper's perspective. And of course, letting them understand that, right? And this is just talking about, carrier of the year or whatever makes you great as a carrier. This can be also done from a brokerage perspective as well. This one's, are you having issues with heavy haul loads, right? Um, Again, it's, thank you for your interest. Please complete our new carrier interest form, link below. I mean, these are all, these are, these are some sample responses, right? So these are responses of you sending out this email, them responding back. These are great responses, right? These are exactly what you want to get when you start sending out these emails. And here's a few more that we've got. Please provide me with your MC. Do you do any services, right? Cross-border services, right? Do you move excavators or bulldozers? You know, these are all fantastic responses. A lot of times too, when we're talking and somebody responds to us, let's say they respond to us and hey, do you have 10 or 15 trucks? If you don't, these are great things too. You can always say, we're a growing company. Is it okay if I reach out to you once we get to that point, right? So these are all, the whole point of any kind of marketing is getting them to think about you a little bit, right? Getting your foot in that door. So, how to vet shippers, okay? There's good and bad everything. There's good and bad carriers, there's good and bad brokers, there's good and bad shippers. You need to vet all of it. Now, is this an extra step? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. So there's a bunch of ways to vet a shipper. So let's say that you get in front of a direct shipper, super excited. A lot of times I get a text from my clients asking for assistance. But there's a bunch of ways to do this. One is, through your factoring company. These are a list of 3 factoring companies that if you call them, right, they will absolutely vet one of your direct shippers and allow you to, of course, factor if you need to. Right, RTS, Denim Factoring, Triumph. These are just a few. But one of the things I would absolutely ask of your factoring company now is reach out to them saying, hey, I'm going after some direct shippers. Is it okay that I send those over to you? Is there a way for you to do a background check, right? To make sure that I can factor these people. Because if you go through a factoring company and they say no, I mean, that's going to give you some pause, right? You're going to have a different conversation with that direct shipper. So second is running their credit. This is a company called TransCredit. There's also Ansania through Equifax. What they're doing is running their Dun and Bradstreet score, right? If they score well, that means they're paying their bills. If they're paying their bills, they're going to pay you. If they're not paying your bills, then we need to have a separate conversation about COD or something like that, right? And smaller shippers, you can negotiate directly for shorter terms, bypass factoring companies, right? All of that. So now, how to negotiate a shorter payment term, okay? A lot of times you got to understand, the shipper's situation, right? Because they're shipping something, that other person on the opposite side's got credit. They're not paying them. So, that's why a lot of times you'll see these net 30, 45, 60 days because they're pushing that load out, they're waiting for payment to pay you. So just like with you, it's cash flow, right? And knowing their financial health, are they a well-run company, right? Are they tight on cash, right? And of course, leverage your value, you know, better service, for the direct shipper side, right? Or the asset-based broker or the asset-based carrier. Better service, direct communication, showing that we're asset-based. On the broker side, make sure you leverage value there. Like we got X amount of clients. We have this pool of carriers, right? You can also offer a discount, if need be, for instant pay. A lot of times that's a big deal. 1.5%, 2%. Sometimes on the carrier side, for your side, that's a big deal because it's less than factoring, right? And I can get that money instantly as well. Present it, you know, as a win-win, right? Working with me as a broker or a carrier, right? Provide top-notch service, being honest. If you're a smaller carrier, I'm a smaller carrier, I need, you know, up front, I need to get 80-90% of the cost of shipment so I can function, right? And I can truly take care of you. So a lot of times when you're having that conversation, you can, of course, just chat about that. And then, of course, last resort, I always keep this way till the end, is if they say net 30, I've got to charge you more because it's going to cost me more, right? Or net 7, a 2% discount, right? So these are all ways you can kind of negotiate as you're talking. It's very common. Also, it's very common for the carriers and even brokers to have the first few loads prepaid. Right? It's very common to ask that while you're of course trying to make sure it's a good fit for everybody. What do shippers care about? What do they care about? What we know for a fact is when we start the marketing engine for our clients, there are 3 areas that get responses. And number 1 is talking about price. Number 2 is visibility, right? Visibility of that load. Number 3 is convenience. Is it easy to do business with you? Right? These are the 3 things that we know that they truly care about, at least when we start marketing, right? But there are all kinds of areas. This is a vendor candidate questionnaire, right? And these are just asking all of the little bits of information, right, about you. A lot of times, these clients that we're going after that do these RFPs, they have these large questionnaires, right? So, you can screenshot this. I would be prepared to answer a lot of the stuff. Just make sure you have your house in order, right, as you're starting to go after these larger direct shippers or these RFPs and get invited to them. Be prepared to make sure you answer these questions because they're trying to get a feel for you. They don't know you from Adam, right? So they may ask a lot of questions, and especially on this RFP, getting invited to these RFPs. A lot of these companies have their stuff together. They understand, but they want to get to know you, so they're going to ask a lot of questions. So just be prepared, right? What does an RFP invite look like? So this is an example of one, right? Please do invite your company to our, annual RFP, quarterly, bi-monthly, whatever it might be. And what it does, it's going to give you attached documents. Typically, there's going to be a rate sheet. They're going to tell you when it needs to be returned by. There's actually going to be another area where it's going to spell out exactly what you need to do. So make sure you read through all these. These are very important to understand as you start getting invited to these RFPs. It's really important to understand all of this. Navigating. So typically an RFP can be a request for price or proposal, same thing. There's always instructions with these, and they're typically very detailed. So it's going to give you submission deadlines, format requirements like Excel, PDF, Word, right? Contact information, and then of course any required documentation. So here's kind of an exercise. This comes up quite a bit on an RFP, and what it is the fuel surcharge and how to calculate it. So in this particular instance here, step one, what you want to do is subtract the base fuel price, which is typically in the RFP, they list that for you, from the current fuel price. And what's the difference? Okay, you're going to divide that by the fuel economy of your fleet. So if you have an older fleet, of course your fuel economy is going to be a lot worse compared to the newer fleet. You know, I'd say like 2020 and up and stuff like that. And then you're going to, multiply that by the total miles, in that RFP for that particular lane, and you're going to get what they call as an FSC, fuel surcharge. How to avoid bad shippers. This question comes up a ton when I'm talking to clients, or they get a shipper and they're like, oh geez, I don't, something doesn't feel right here. I get that call. So, look for red flags during that initial interaction. If they got weird payment terms, a very low freight rate, understanding the market, understanding what the rate should be, you guys should know this or have access to, right? And then of course, excessive demands, right? If they got these crazy demands, or, they say that, you could be sitting here for 4 hours and we're not going to pay you, right? Those can all be signs. Bad credit. You can also check for Google reviews. You can get a credit report. Again, TransCredit, TransUnion, Insania. These can all done through your factoring company. But if they got bad credit, that's a challenge. And also know when to walk away, right? I mean, not everybody's going to be a great fit for your company. And if they're starting to play games after you start, getting with this, and they start changing terms, it might be a bad sign, for working with that client. So just again, a lot of this has to do with feel, but also a lot of it has to do with like terms or what's happening once you get invited to that RFP and get in front of this direct shipper, right? How does Truckpedia help? How can we help? How can we help get you to land meetings with shippers? Essentially, that's what we're doing, right? We're getting that response. You're going to work with them. So one of the things is, building a website with instant quotes, and this is really powerful because the number one thing that we hear from direct shippers is price. And if you look at it from the perspective of a direct shipper or a logistics manager, he's got to quote his freight prices to his bosses so that they can in turn take those prices and project what it's going to cost them, right? So there's a whole chain of events here, and that's why price always comes up. But price isn't the only thing, okay? And with this particular part, this can be a website. If you already have a website, this could be a web page that's linked to it. But being transparent, understanding, of course, the market for you carriers, being competitive with brokers. Because if you're a carrier going after direct shippers, your competition is other brokers, not other carriers. If you're a broker, your competition's other brokers. What are you doing differently? What makes you better as a broker? Okay. Maybe it's, I've been working with these same clients for the past 10 years, right? That's a very powerful message. Or if you're an asset-based broker, listen, I have my own fleet. I know how to take care of you, right? Number two, real-time quotes, okay? So we can provide them with a real-time quote. They can book a load. So being ultra convenient, right? Being easy to work with. These are all big deals, whether you're a broker, whether you're a carrier, right? The other two is lead finder. Having not only all these other tools, but having the ability to go after leads, having the ability to take a look at some of these loads you've done in the past, getting in front of these particular clients, right? Having the ability to pull that data. So this lead finder tool that we have has almost 2 million, leads, 2 million, customers in here with all of their information, their phone numbers, what they do for the company, right? What's their email address? Again, having all this stuff, it's very hard right now if you don't have any kind of tools. So this is a very powerful tool to find leads. The other thing that we do is AI-powered email marketing campaigns, right? One thing that we've gotten very, very good at is writing a campaign, training AI, right, to write a campaign that will get a response, short and sweet, right? And what we do, not only are we automating this part of it, right, but we're also taking a look at the responses and automating the response, not the response to the customer, but automating a response and letting you know, hey, somebody has interest, right? We have the ability to look at the data, right? What are their open rates? What are they clicking on, right? This is all very important stuff. If somebody's going to open your email a couple of times, then they're going to click and go to your website or go to your pricing page. You need to reach out to that person. The system's going to let you know, right? Also, part of the system is when somebody has interest, right? You talk to somebody, you need to have some kind of digital friend letting you know, like if this client, when you talk to them, they're doing RFPs in December. Is it okay that I reach out to them towards the end of November, right? To get in that RFP or RFQ process of theirs, right? So you want to have a system that's going to remind you, right? Give you a task saying, hey, don't forget to call this person that you talked to a couple weeks ago, right? Awesome. If anybody is interested in participating in an RFP, we do them from time to time. Our clients that are on our system, we also not only market for them, but we market abroad. We're trying to bring in clients and help them as well. And if you're interested, on a demo on how to land shippers, let us know. Shoot me a text. This is my phone number. Awesome. I'd love to open this up to any questions. Paul, I know you raised your hand earlier. I'd love to answer any question that you have.
Hello, Henry. Thanks for great introduction in your product and happy Saturday.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Henry, actually my question was about domains, but after you started to explain more deeper, I got it. So that the email will be sent using different domains, right? Different domain system.
Correct. Yeah, typically different email domains. The reason why we don't use your email domain is what can possibly happen is one is I don't have any control over how that's set up, right? When we start the marketing engine. Two is we don't want to collapse your domain. We don't want to we don't want those emails to start going in spam and you look like spam. And when these emails talk to each other, if it sees spam, it goes into a folder. Then the next email that it goes to somebody else, it carries the same thing. It just can eventually kind of bring you down. So what you have to look at is emails and domains are ranked like websites. Just like a website, when you search for something, they're all ranked. That's why you see them in an order. The same thing with emails. And when if you're going with something besides, Truckpedia, or you're going to email, just be very cautious, right? Understanding that you don't want to do too many blasts, right? You want to make sure that the system, whatever you're using, is set up to do cold email. And what a cold email is a client that you've never done business with. They've never heard of you. It's not like you've had a relationship before and you're sending them a message. It's kind of like sneaking into somebody's DM, right? But the domain has emails attached to it. Typically, for our clients, it's one domain, 4 email addresses in your business name, right? So we're not trying to look like we're something else. We're definitely representing you as the carrier or the broker, right? When we're going after these direct clients. So, but having them that set up properly, having somebody or whoever is going to be helping you with that, whether it's us or somebody else, understand like, okay, I'm going to be cold emailing. I might have my own list that I buy, right? I don't want to get flagged. But that's the last thing you want to do because at the end of all this, if you're not getting deliverability and you can't see analytics and you don't know who clicked on what, it's kind of a waste of time, right? That's why a lot of people fail at email marketing.
Yeah, exactly. And about technology, what we used. So you mentioned that there is there is option to train AI for sending emails, or it goes by default this training.
So what we do with our system is a managed system. Okay. So what we look at is the analytics of why people open an email address, right? What is that call to action? Why are they doing it? And what we do is we train AI on the back end of our system to constantly get better. So we're writing better emails.
Oh,
So
okay. So
we're not showing you how to do it necessarily.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We are doing it now. You can still use the same like those formats, the call to action, the formats for those emails. You can use those in everyday life.
Okay, I got
Ada, Ada framework, all of that is very, it's very useful.
Yeah, it means that you guys gather analytic for your AI. So once email was sent and if receive and it was received a response. So so maybe I don't know, once per week, once per month, you do some analytic and you do some changing for prompting for AI which you use, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of times what'll happen is we're going to launch a campaign. Now, prior to launching a campaign, when we talk with our clients, we're taking a look at, okay, we're interviewing. What makes you great? Every carrier is different. Every brokerage is different, right? We want to then when we start the lead gen, we're going to take a look at, okay, what size of company, right? Um, what's their commodity? Commodity is, I mean, all of us here on this call are probably afraid of all kind. And eventually niching that, right? Afraid of all kind is the equivalent of going fishing at a pond with a shotgun, right? You shoot it, that's afraid of all kind, right? Sprays out. You're not going to hit any fish. But to get a fish, right, to land somebody with a commodity, we want to bait the hook and cast a lure, right, to catch a fish. So freight of all kind is great. We do look at freight of all kind when we start the marketing engine, right? We're gonna base it on commodities that you guys are capable of doing. Because if we all had unlimited budgets, right? I think I shared. Let me go back very early on to. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to go back to the around the beginning here, and we were talking about, okay, if I want to send a bunch of emails, right? How many can I send per day, right? So for instance, if I want to send 1,000 emails a day, right, that's 4 domains with 20 emails. Now with 4 domains, I can pick a group of leads with a bunch of commodities here, a bunch of commodities here, a bunch of commodities here, have different messages, but reach out. So a lot of what we look at when we start the marketing engine is, what do we need to do, right? How many do I need to reach out to? Who do I need to reach out to? Where do I need to reach out to? That's also important too. Like, for instance, let's say that you're having a backhaul issue in Texas. I can't get back to LA, right? So maybe we start marketing in Texas. Maybe that makes the most sense, right? I might have some good dedicated lanes or even some good brokered lanes already getting I just can't get back. It's costing me I lose tons of money. Well, then we'll market there, right? But anyhow, I know we got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, there's a lot of ways we kind of look at this, and then of course script the message, because we already kind of we already know, you know, what what it takes to get that response, right? What are the key words, right? And what we're doing is we're constantly tweaking it towards you and the commodities we're going after. So what we do is extremely targeted, right? More targeted than most. You know, a lot of companies, a lot of marketing companies, there's tons of them out there. Usually, you know, some of these big guys are like 25 grand a year to start, right? Well, they're buying up lists, they're doing all this stuff, right? And they're just spraying, they're blanketing, right? What we're doing is we're taking a look at the size of company, the commodity, where they're at, and then having a targeted message towards that, very targeted, right? So that's why we see a 30% interest, you know, that they're interested. 30% of our, you know, of the emails that go out, you're lucky to get 5 to 10% in most marketing agencies, and it's just we take that time to kind of narrow that down, right?
Okay, I got it. Thanks for detailed clarification.
You got it. Thanks for any other questions. There's no stupid questions here, so if anybody has anything, by all means, throw it in the chat.
Hey
Uh,
Henry, how you guys doing?
hey, hey, Tall, how are you?
Good, 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 man. I was doing some weekend gardening work, while listening to you guys. Great stuff as
Awesome.
always. Just to for the new audience, this is Tal from J&S. We recently signed out with Truckpedia. We switched over from load stop, over the road, driving, in our drive-in services, right? So we've been pretty happy, and just if you don't mind, if I got a minute, I can
Yeah, of
say a few
course. I
things if you don't
appreciate it.
mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
one thing I will say is, so we're in the drayage, drive-in, and warehousing business. So this year, we've been in the trucking industry for 15 years, right? But in the warehouse space, we've been in it for like 5 years. So we do cross dock storage and the whole deal. So this is probably one of the worst years, talking to my mentors, like that have been in the game for 50 years, right? So I would say, add on to what you guys say, right? Marketing is one thing that I will say, just to kind of give you example, right? So we've been posting content, from the last 15 years. We've only been doing for, the last 1 year, right? So you guys will be surprised how many customers we picked up. So this week, a customer reaches out to us. He'd be like, "Hey, we need your warehousing services, right?" So, we ask him, "How did you find us?" Right? He's like, "Yeah, man, one of my buddies watches you guys, posting content. Like, we're consistent every day. We're posting all across the board, right?" And when we're talking about marketing as well, it's tough, right? As a business owner, it's very hard to, do the whole marketing all across the platforms. So what we did is, we hired a VA that's managing it. But I will say we just started using this tool called Blaze.ai, right? So it kind of integrates all of your social media channels into one, and with the help of AI, right? It generates a lot of content for you. So check that out too, guys. Just to,
Yeah,
and like I said, you guys have great stuff, but just want to give a different angle, add on to what you guys
absolutely.
already,
Yeah,
and again, right? So many things don't work. You might throw a lot of money on, companies out there that might charge thousands of dollars. And as a business owner, right now it's tough. Everybody, so like Blaze.ai, $60 a month. I think everybody can afford that, right?
yeah,
In order to take your marketing game to another level. And again, it took us about a year and a half posting content, and we couldn't gain any followers, right? So again, we started doing some meme posts, trying different things out, right? Again, customers are watching. Your drivers are
yeah,
watching. Your brokers are watching you. Again, you want to outreach. Besides the email marketing, that's a tough game, man. Like cold emails, cold calling. Like we never done that, to be honest. Like it's because we think it is a tougher route, but depending on what you want to do, right? So again, I mean that's just. I mean, if anybody's got
yeah,
questions, I'm happy to share any more information on what we're doing. Again, at this time, we all got to share what works and what doesn't work, right? End of the
absolutely.
day, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, Tal, I really appreciate that. That is a great example of inbound marketing, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of this that we look at here, when you take a look at all of these strategies, we've picked, when you look at email, like you
Yeah.
want to look at everything. Now, email is still, when you look at what happens in freight, email is still very
Yep.
prevalent. It's
Yep.
very prevalent, right? What we want to do is automate that, right? When we're automating that, what we're looking for is, instead of us focusing on those 500 leads, let's just focus on the people that have interest, right? We're trying to solicit interest, right? However, there's still cold calls. There's still knocking on doors, going into industry related conferences. Industry related conferences are huge. Like if you're doing produce, you need to be there with your one pager networking. This is how you find people. That's how Tall's grew his business. He's now getting into, social media content. That stuff is very powerful. When we're sitting
Yep.
here around our family, we got our phone on our face. You're going to be on TikTok or
Yep.
Facebook or, looking at reels and all of these things. You know, if you're in trucking, you're probably seeing some trucking content, right? Like Tall said, using Blaze, doing some content. It's great stuff, right? Now,
Yep.
is it easy to do?
No,
No. You gotta give it
takes
some
a lot of
effort. But
lot of work. Again, it took us a year and a half to gain any kind of followers, and
yeah,
and again, the results will come. Right, you gotta put in, you gotta grind, right, and
yeah,
keep improving every week. Like how Mr. B said it, make 100 videos and keep improving after every video. And we just started doing like podcasts. Like yesterday we recorded like a couple of clips,
yeah,
talking about the day-to-day issues that we feel, that we get, right. For example, so there's a lot of theft going on, right.
yeah.
So we got a
Awful,
customer
awful,
in
awful, awful.
Phoenix, yeah, that ordered go-karts. So they're like entertainment, industry, right. So like
Mm-hmm.
bunch of sports stuff, golfing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we quoted our customer, about $2,400 to take it from Livermore to Phoenix, right? And the low board's about 1,800. So we don't try to mark up too much. So this is what happens. So the customer, Paul, everybody wants the same money, right? So they probably find a carrier for $500 less than what we quoted them, right? Come to find out, a truck shows up, um, and it was triple brokered out, right?
Oof.
So that freight could have been stolen, right? And they already had a crew this weekend that needed to offload those go-karts, and possibly they probably even took bookings for next week, for customers to come out there,
Yeah.
And again, I would say highlight, what you do best. Like for us, is we might charge a little bit more, but we're consistent. We've been in business since 2010, right? And I think highlight how long you've been in the industry, because a lot
Absolutely.
of people are new to the game, only a couple of months, they don't know what they're doing, right? So you have an edge there, if you got an old MC. So we recently just sold our company, and we're looking into get into the brokerage game as well. And um, and the main thing, Darian, our new owner, right? He was a former football player, played with Tom Brady and stuff. So
Yeah.
great guy. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna get into brokers, but we need to buy a company that's 3 years older. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
for a second, right? Yeah, it might be wise for us to just open up a new company when we're starting
Yeah.
in, but I would
Yeah.
say, look at a company that's older, because then you'll have an edge.
Yeah. Well, also too, and Tall brings up a lot of great points. And one of the other things too is understanding, anybody that's on here that's a smaller carrier,
Yeah,
it's not necessarily how old your MC is. If you're going after a big RFP with a big company, of course that's going to come into question, right? But when you're
yeah,
going after these small to mid-size, right,
yeah,
letting them know that you've been in the business for 26 years
yeah,
is very important. Like understanding a load and understanding how to, all of that stuff works is really, really important. It's an important message, right?
yeah.
When you're going after these particular clients. Now, Tall, back to your double, triple brokered. How did you figure that out? What are some of the things that you're
So
doing?
So our warehouse teams, we always preach safety, right? So I'm like that's like the priority for us, right? So how we weed out the bad fellas is, we make sure We take the license picture of the driver. We take the truck picture, license plate, the whole deal, right? And then we always call the customer and be like, hey, and we already do our homework in advance, right? We already know who's
Yeah.
coming,
Yeah.
what the truck
Yeah.
driver and information is, and we look at that, and we call our customers if it's something different. Hey, we got this and this coming in, and he's like, oh, all right. If the and again, it happens to us all the time too. Like uh, you know, again, not one freight has been stolen from our warehouse the last 5 years. That's to we're
Fantastic.
always making sure, because if the one load gets stolen, the customer's upset, and then you're it's liability, insurance, and the whole deal, right? And what a few minutes of just making sure, right? You got the right person that's supposed to pick up the freight,
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
that's how we kind of found out, and we never loaded the truck. So again, that we could have delivered that freight, we're a couple $100 more, right? And again, I want to say this to all my customers out there. I choose the carrier. You might have to pay a little bit more, but if you want the good service, you got to pay a
Absolutely.
little bit
Yeah.
extra. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole point of any of this is you got to get your foot in the door, right? How do
Yeah.
you get your foot in the door? And
Yeah.
right, as a carrier, when you start this, again, you're trying to get in between a broker and the direct shipper. So how do you squeeze yourself in between there and get that good message as a broker, right? To going after a direct shipper. How am I different in the crowd of brokers, the sea of brokers, right? And you have to be different. And there has to be a call to action that's going to start that conversation,
Yeah.
right? Essentially, what you're doing with marketing is you're booking a meeting to talk to somebody to see if it's a good fit, right? So, and there are a ton of channels when it comes to marketing. And thankfully, one of the things that we do is, especially for clients like Tall came to us, and we're helping with processes with the TMS to streamline his process, right? So that one is he's taking care of the customers better. Two, he's getting paid quicker, right?
Yes.
And everything's getting paid. So those things we're actively helping, right? But we do, when we talk about freight and talk about kind of what we do, we also do a ton of training. Like we do biweekly seminars with our clients. We bring them in and we're talking about knocking on doors,
Yeah.
right? Going to conferences, like you talked about, like covering yourself, making sure you're not going to get double brokered, right? A lot of people that use factoring, some people will use factoring here, some people won't. Factoring is cash flow, right? There's a whole
Yeah.
conversation on factoring, but
Yeah.
if your factoring company says no, you need to really look into that customer to make sure, because there's probably a reason there.
Right. Yeah. We started doing factoring with Loves about a year ago. And all of our life, we never did factoring. The
Hmm.
only reason we started doing it is because we lost a lot of money working with customers that took us 15, 30 days to find out, hey, we're not going to get paid. With factoring is, it's red flag right away. You do one load,
Yep.
you,
Yep.
you get red flagged. um
Yep.
you know
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
but that
absolutely.
that there's a benefit, but there's a lot of bad factoring companies out there, so you got to be careful who you're
Yeah.
working with. Because I would say Loves is probably one of the best, but still they
Yeah.
got flaws, and there's
Yeah.
chargebacks, and there's a lot of issues.
Well, yeah, Loves is old school too. Loves
Yeah.
is, you can't automate around Loves,
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately. But there's also RTS, there's Triumph, there's a few good ones out there, right?
Yeah.
There's Denim is a new one to the market. Denim is a startup. Those are really good group of guys.
Yeah.
On the factoring, you got to look at, okay, are they non-recourse, right?
Right.
There's a lot of things, and we have a whole seminars on that. We can go into endless
Yeah.
conversations on that
Yeah.
stuff.
I
But
want to I want
yeah,
to ask you about the events. So I've been going to events. Last week I went to one in San Francisco, small business. That one's a free, right? So look, I wish I could go to every conference that's out there, but man, they charge a lot of money, man. So
yeah,
so
yeah.
I was thinking of opening up a media company. That's how you get one door. Any other tips you guys can share how we can get save a little bit of
Well,
money there? And because I love going to events, man, I really want to say that, yeah, you guys are
yeah.
on every event. I mean, look, you guys are selling a software. I don't know how much you guys are paying, but I'm sure the money's the worth, the investment. But how can you advise a smaller trucking company that wants to go to all these conferences? Maybe not all,
Yeah.
but some the good ones, right? Here's the thing, right? You go to the free ones, 90% of the people there that waste your time, there are startups, and they just want to sell you like HR services and stuff. And
Yep.
look, out of thousands of people, how are you going to find a network with the shippers and manufacturers you want to
Yeah.
do business with again? And I'm sure they're not there. They're not at the free
Yeah.
events. Okay.
Well, these are all really, really good questions. But one thing to kind of peel this whole thing back is, if whoever's on this call here, if you've never been to an event, you do not want to spend money.
Right.
You want to go to a free one, because if you've never networked like that, the first time you talk to somebody, it's going to sound like you got a box full of marbles coming out of your mouth. So
Mhm.
one of the things
Right.
is, go to the free ones, go to a couple free ones first. Any kind of trucking event, anything in logistics that could that has that you do, right? If it's, whatever, if it's a produce convention, whatever it might be, right? Try and get in there free. Also, if you're using your factoring company, a lot of these things are hosted by your factoring company. They'll get you in for free. Reach out to
Really?
them.
Oh,
Absolutely,
the other
absolutely.
one, man. That's
Talk talk to your rep, saying, "Hey, listen, can you get me into this conference? Can you help me out?" Now, once you get good, okay, at talking and networking, and it's tough. The other thing is, make sure you got business cards. Put a QR code on the back of your business card. Drive them back to your, if you don't have them, if you're on our platform, we have all that stuff.
yeah.
Have a good one pager. A one pager talks about you. It's not, you can call it a brochure. Also, put some lanes on there and some pricing. You want to show them, like pique their interest. Price is always a factor, right?
Yeah.
Um, but go to the smaller ones first. Then you really need to take a look at your commodity, what you haul, what you do. Like, you do a lot of drayage, so you're going to go a lot. There's drayage and trucking, and there's a bunch of them, right? Those are really good ones to go to. But really looking at the commodity, or the commodity that you want to get into. So if you want to get into high value electronics, or high value HVAC, or high value medical equipment, there are trade shows all over. Google, look at it. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're going to spend the money, make sure you're looking at, okay, where, if I want to get in front of these clients, right, where do I need to go? The other thing is, if you're going to go to these, make sure to pay attention and go to all the after hours things, where they have the drink. A lot of these, are like $1,200, $1,300. They're well worth it. But if you're going to network, go to the networking events, have a cocktail, talk to people. You're going to have to open up, right? This is all learned stuff. So obviously go to the free ones first, but you can Google all this stuff. I think we actually had a seminar a while back for like the top ones, like Manifest, and it depends on your industry, right? But Tall, you're out of what area you guys service?
Oakland, San Francisco.
Oakland. Gotcha. So you're in a great spot. California's a great spot for. There was just a California trucking show last weekend.
Yeah.
We went to, and then I believe we have the trucker broker summit that's
Yeah.
coming up in Texas. That's a really good one too.
Are you guys gonna be there?
Um, we will be, actually, Justin will be there. Anybody here ever heard of Adam Winfield?
Oh yeah, I love that guy, man. I just connected with him. I love what he
We
does, man.
we love him too. Matter of fact, a lot of our TMS and our reporting is absolutely patterned off of what he that we should look at, right? Until you've seen that reporting, that's very much Adam Winfield-esque,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But he's a great friend in Carrier, and if anybody, Adam Winfield, Google him,
Yep.
watch what the guy's brilliant. He's a brilliant mind in trucking, and he will, you know, what he talks about is, okay, how do I get myself to a 20% profitability? That's the goal, right? And if you're dealing with brokers and load boards, you're hovering around 3 to 5%, right?
Yep. Yep.
Going to direct. I mean, the only way to get there, okay, to that 20% nirvana, that 20% like goal, you got to find direct shippers,
Yep.
whether you do it with us or somebody else, right? Just like you're doing, you're leveraging social media, right? that 3 to 5% instantly goes to 13 to 15%,
Right.
right? And there's other ways to get yourself to that 20% from there. But he talks about all of that stuff and understanding your true cost per mile and your true running cost. He just had I watched one of his videos of somebody who said, I don't know, it's $2.72 cost per mile to run a trucking company if you have newer trucks, right, or new
Yep.
trucks.
Yep.
And he debunked it in a way that was brilliant because he actually showed us the math and said, no, it's more like $2.12. You know, because at $2.72, everybody be out of business. You know, our costs. You know, hopefully we never get to that point, but our costs being that high. But anyhow. But yeah, all great stuff. You know, there's not one way to skin a cat here, and whatever you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with going to networking events, then don't. Right? That's okay.
Right.
Right?
Right. Right. And
But
one thing
these are
I'll
all
say,
great ways.
yeah, one thing I'll say is like, so we recently just started a podcast, right? I mean, look, I mean, you guys have a lot more experience, and we don't see a lot of people in the drayage game up north, talking about, these things, right? So I will definitely love to talk to Justin and get his take on, how we can make, better content around, drayage, warehousing. I know, what the services we do, right? And I know Leslie and your team, they wanted get some feedback on the software, right? And we can talk about that as well, right? And again,
Yep.
just make more content, put some good knowledge out there that
Yeah.
what we're doing, what works and what doesn't work. And again, you guys, Adam, Justin, great group of people that I've been following for a long time, and it takes a while, right, to
Yeah.
get used to and learn these things. But again, great stuff, guys. I
Yeah.
appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Drayage is definitely drayage intermodal. That industry is very inclusive. Right. It's a very difficult. And honestly, when like for you for marketing, I look at a lot of freight forwarders. You know, freight forwarders tend to take a smaller cut,
Right.
around 10%. You know,
Yeah.
and then you add brokers another
Yeah.
15% to that. So
Yeah, we
you
work
can
with
be
a lot of great ones. Yep, because
yeah,
especially
yeah,
because they want a good carrier and warehousing services that can handle all in, right, from the port to the warehouse and last mile
absolutely.
delivery. And
Yeah,
we got great ones. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
yeah. But it's definitely that is one of the challenging markets. You know, it's a great market to be in. It's just
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things that like even around freight pricing, there's not a lot not a lot of publishment not a lot of things published on drayage, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but you know, getting that word out there also too, you know, but a lot of it too is you know when you're looking at drayage and looking at pricing yourself amongst others, and a lot of the stuff is very predictable. Like it's like a 3 month rotation on drayage on pricing. You can pretty much know like if this lane's 450, you know, I can mark it up to X and still be okay, right?
Yeah.
Um, what you know when I'm marketing myself or talking about pricing and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's all yeah, we'd love to do some more
Yeah.
podcasts and
Let's take some questions from if anybody's got questions for me or just general.
yeah, absolutely. Eric, I know you're on here. Pavel,
Yeah,
any other questions?
yeah, I'm having just one question to tell. Thank you for providing a lot of useful information. It's really useful. And say, please, you said that on the will be event in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What? How does it call this event? Could you repeat, please?
I'm sorry. What was the last part?
Yeah,
So
you mentioned that on the next weekend will be event in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, so it was last week. So the small business events are like I want to say every month in a major city, and I
Uh-huh.
know there's another one coming up. I'm not sure if it's Vegas or LA, but if you look at SBE business events, so they're free to go to. But again, if you're gonna go there, just know that you're gonna get if you want customers. But again, like Mr. Henry said, right? It's great to go to some of these events just to get sharpened up, right? Like how to talk to who, because there's a lot of people that's just gonna waste your time, right? So how do you
yep,
shift the conversation onto something again? So like I said, a lot of time wasters. So what I do is like always look at their name tags, and there's a badge of color. So you in right when you get to the event, you want to know what this event is and who do you want to go to, right? So
Hmm.
I always looked at like I talked to a great guy that worked at Chase Bank. So I talked to him for like 30 minutes. Great stuff about banking, finance, money, how how money how the banking is working right now because it's a struggle to find,
Yeah,
and again, relationship
financing. Yeah,
or
yeah,
relationships matter. So I don't know.
absolutely.
Does that answer your question? I mean, did you
Yeah,
look it
yeah,
up? I can
yeah,
drop a comment here if you want.
Yeah,
yeah.
What it
there's
is.
a lot of, I mean, Google them, right? Start
Yeah,
Googling, especially around you. But like this is the one that Justin's going to be at with
yeah,
Adam Winfield. It's called the Broker Carrier Summit. It's presented by
Oh, broker.
TAFS.
yeah,
That's later this month, October
yeah.
23rd through the 25th. It's in Fort Worth, but it's
So
a
I would
good
say
one. If you can
ev-
go, it's a good one.
Eventbrite. So most of the events are posted there, but I'm not sure. What would you say, Henry? What is the how do you find these trucking events or drug shipper manufacturer events? Because I know there was one a few days ago in Vegas, man, the retail one. I really wanted to go to that one, but
Yeah.
something like that. So where do you usually find these events?
Well, a lot of what we're doing is we're networking too. We're talking to like Adam, we're talking to other people. Google, we're Googling trucking events. But also too, if you belong to any local, you know, like we belong to the Massachusetts Trucking Association, like your local
Uh,
trucking associates. They know all of them.
yep, yep. Okay.
Those are great, like California Truck Association. If we're also part of Massachusetts, we're part of Florida Truck Association. We get a lot of great stuff from them, and some are good or some are not. Like depending on what you're shipping. Um, there's so many. There's on our side, it's infinite, right? Because we can help everybody. But on your side, it's kind of looking at, okay, what's my final mile and my drayage, right? Because I think that the drayage one was earlier this year. That was a pretty good show. That was in California.
Yeah, usually the
Um,
Drake ones are mostly in LA area, so that's why, man, I'm like, man, they need to start doing one event or a couple of events a year out here in Northern California. So, ET
yeah,
Transport, that guy, he's coming down here, so we're possibly going to host like a local event where yeah, I mean, he's selling some courses right now, but again, great guy. So I think we should collaborate on a common event and host one out here, because that's what I'm
yeah.
kind of like working towards.
Well,
Um,
the one that Adam is doing with Justin is probably what this will set the framework for us doing a lot more. I think,
where are you guys doing that?
collaborations in regards to that. That's at the Broker Carrier Summit.
Oh, you guys are like, okay, all right, all right, all
Oh
right.
yeah, we've got a whole thing going. So
Okay. Are you gonna do
let
like a
me.
podcast? Are you gonna do like a podcast?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yep.
On which date is it going to be?
Yeah. Let me find it. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, I would love to see if I can join you guys out there, man.
Let me see here. Let me message the team.
Okay, no worries. You can text or email me
I'll
later.
yeah, I'll get it to you.
Yeah, I'd love to see
One
if I can
second
join you
here.
on that date. Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I gotta hop out. Yeah.
From my side, no questions, and thanks for clarification, guys.
Okay.
You got it. Yeah, it was a pleasure chatting with everybody, and hopefully, knowledge is power here, right? Knowing enough and knowing a little bit, a lot of this too. It's we're so blind in the industry. We're so focused on moving freight that we don't understand there's so many other areas and opportunities to get to these direct
Yeah.
clients. And one of the things that we want to do is not only bring awareness to what we're doing, but also bring awareness to the other areas out there. Because like Tal's doing a lot of social media, right? It is an absolute fantastic way to get in front of the people you're trying to ship for, right?
Yeah.
Because they're I mean, everybody's on their phones. I swear I got to take my girls' phones away to get them off their phones, to have a conversation. You know, when we sit
Yeah.
at the dinner table and everybody's looking at their phone, but
It's tough.
it's part of where
Tough.
we're at, right?
Yep.
But knowing all of this stuff, knowing all of these areas is very powerful for trying to go after direct shippers, because there's no one thing that is going to do it, right?
Right.
It's a sum of things,
Right.
right? And there's also, like, once you get a direct shipper or get your foot in the door with somebody, there's an art to keeping them
Right.
and keeping them interested and going after them, not being too pushy, and all these things you have to learn, right? If you've never gone after them,
Right.
so. But yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate it. I'll get you that information on the
For sure.
broker carrier
All right,
stuff.
guys. Take care.
Awesome.
All right. All right.
Cheers, y'all. Thanks for coming.